There's a strange idea floating around today that success is about finding the fastest way, the clever hack, the secret formula. We scroll, we search, we ask, what's the shortcut? But here's the truth, the work itself is the shortcut. The people who move ahead, who build things that matter, who inspire others, they aren't the ones who found a secret door. They're the ones who kept walking when everyone else stopped, looking for the easy way. When you do the work, when you show up, learn, make mistakes, and improve, you begin to move faster, not because the road changes, but because you do. You gain clarity, skill, and confidence. That's what speed really is, competence born from consistency. We live in a culture obsessed with results, titles, milestones, recognition, but results are echoes. They come after the sound. The sound is the effort, the practice, the long nights, the quiet mornings when no one is watching. That's the real music of progress, and yes, the work takes time. It can be uncomfortable, uncertain, and slow, but it's in that slowness that you develop something shortcuts can never offer: understanding. Because understanding can't be copied, it must be earned. The irony, once you embrace the work, you actually move faster. You stop chasing quick wins and start building real momentum. Each hour of focused effort compounds. Each challenge teaches you something shortcuts never could. So if you're searching for the fastest way forward, stop searching, start doing. The real shortcut isn't in avoiding the work, it's in doing it with purpose. Because in the end, the people who win aren't the ones who move the fastest. They're the ones who never stopped moving. In every pursuit, there's an instinctive desire to look for the easiest route, the path that promises results with the least resistance. Yet, when we step back and observe those who truly excel, we discover something counterintuitive. Their success was not shaped by shortcuts, but by their unwavering connection to why they were doing the work in the first place. Purpose transforms work from a set of tasks into a meaningful journey. It shifts the focus from how fast we can finish to how deeply we can understand. Without purpose, effort feels like labor. With purpose, effort feels like growth. When an individual understands their purpose, the process of working hard ceases to feel like punishment. Instead, it becomes a means of expression. A teacher preparing lessons late at night, a musician practicing a single piece for hours, or an entrepreneur refining their product design again and again, they are all driven by a sense of meaning that goes beyond the work itself. This sense of purpose anchors them when challenges appear and gives direction when results seem distant. The person without purpose sees obstacles as roadblocks. The person with purpose sees them as parts of the process. Purpose brings alignment between action and intention. Many people get lost not because they lack talent, but because they lose sight of why they started. When the why fades, the how becomes exhausting. Every step feels heavier because it lacks emotional fuel. However, when individuals reconnect with their reason for doing what they do, whether it's to create, to serve, to improve, or to inspire, even the most repetitive work gains significance. The same action that once felt dull transforms into a deliberate investment in something greater than the self. There's also a psychological power in purpose. Neuroscience shows that meaning activates persistence. People endure discomfort more easily when they understand the reason behind it. Purpose rewires our response to struggle. It turns frustration into feedback and fatigue into fulfillment. The athlete who trains at dawn is not motivated by the alarm clock, but by the vision of who they are becoming. Purpose gives context to effort, and context changes everything. In education and professional development, the presence or absence of purpose often separates high performers from disengaged participants. A student who studies merely to pass an exam learns temporarily. One who studies to understand the world learns permanently. Similarly, an employee who works only for a paycheck operates on compliance, while one who works to make a difference operates on commitment. The distinction lies not in the amount of effort, but in the emotional and intellectual clarity behind it. Purpose sustains energy far longer than pressure ever can. Purpose also eliminates the illusion of speed. When we focus solely on reaching the destination, every detour feels like a failure. But when we focus on the purpose of the journey, every detour becomes a lesson. The person guided by purpose is not in a hurry to skip steps. They are curious to master them. They understand that depth of learning shortens the distance to excellence. Ironically, those who chase shortcuts often slow themselves down, while those who commit to meaningful work naturally accelerate because their motivation doesn't fluctuate with convenience. Another powerful effect of purpose is the creation of intrinsic motivation. External rewards, money, recognition, approval may spark short-term effort, but they fade quickly once achieved. Purpose, however, creates a self-renewing source of energy. It turns work into something personal and self-validating. When you're working for something that aligns with your values and beliefs, you no longer need to be pushed. You are pulled forward. This internal pull is what allows people to stay consistent long after others have quit. Purpose cultivates resilience. When failure strikes, those without purpose interpret it as proof that they should stop. Those with purpose interpret it as information data about what needs refinement. Their sense of meaning acts as a stabilizer, preventing them from being overwhelmed by temporary setbacks. They see work not as a burden to endure, but as a process to engage with. Every challenge becomes an invitation to grow closer to their goal. Purpose also enhances collaboration. When teams share a common purpose, communication becomes clearer and trust becomes stronger. The shared why aligns individual efforts, reducing friction and confusion. People begin to see themselves not as competitors, but as contributors to a larger mission. Purpose gives structure to teamwork in a way that authority cannot. It motivates cooperation not by instruction, but by inspiration. Purpose is what transforms ordinary work into legacy. Skills may fade, positions may change, and achievements may be forgotten, but the impact created through purpose-driven action endures. The teacher who teaches with purpose doesn't just transfer knowledge, they awaken curiosity. The leader who leads with purpose doesn't just manage results, they build cultures. The creator who works with purpose doesn't just produce output, they craft meaning. Therefore, in any domain, education, leadership, innovation, or personal growth, the greatest shortcut is not avoiding the work, but aligning it with purpose. Because when you know why you work, the how becomes clear, the when becomes irrelevant, and the result becomes inevitable. Purpose doesn't speed up time, it transforms it. It makes every moment of effort count, and that is what makes the work itself the only true shortcut. Discipline is often misunderstood as restriction, a set of rules that limit freedom or creativity. In truth, discipline is the foundation of all efficiency. It is not about doing more, it is about doing what matters most consistently, deliberately, and with focus. Discipline removes the noise, allowing clarity to emerge. When a person practices discipline, they don't waste energy deciding what to do each day. The structure becomes a silent ally. Over time, this consistency compounds, transforming effort into expertise and repetition into mastery. Efficiency is not the product of cutting corners, but the result of building habits that reduce friction in the process of working. The disciplined individual doesn't chase motivation. They understand that motivation is emotional, temporary, and unpredictable. Discipline, however, is structural. It functions regardless of how one feels. When someone chooses to work, even when inspiration is absent, they train their mind to perform on command. This is where true efficiency begins. A mind conditioned through routine becomes sharper and faster at executing tasks. What once required conscious effort becomes automatic. Just like an athlete who refines muscle memory through consistent practice, disciplined people create mental and emotional muscle memory that sustains performance over time. Discipline transforms time into a tool rather than an obstacle. Many people complain of not having enough hours in the day, yet the real issue isn't time but attention. Discipline protects attention. It directs energy toward priorities and filters distractions that waste cognitive resources. The disciplined learner studies before leisure, the disciplined leader plans before reacting, and the disciplined creator builds before seeking validation. Over weeks and months, this small difference in focus accumulates into exponential growth. Efficiency emerges not from doing everything quickly, but from doing the right things repeatedly. Consistency is the invisible force that turns ordinary effort into extraordinary progress. When someone commits to a task daily, even in small increments, they develop rhythm, and rhythm is the secret engine of high performance. The brain adapts to predictable patterns of work, entering deeper states of concentration more easily. This phenomenon, known as flow, becomes accessible not by chance but by habit. Discipline creates the conditions for flow, and once flow is achieved, efficiency increases naturally because the mind operates without resistance. Another dimension of discipline lies in the willingness to embrace monotony. Most people quit not because they are incapable, but because they become bored. Discipline is the ability to stay engaged when excitement fades. It is the recognition that repetition is not redundancy, it is refinement. Every iteration, every repeated attempt sharpens skill and reduces the likelihood of error. This is the paradox of discipline. Doing the same thing over and over eventually frees you to do it faster, better, and with greater creativity. Efficiency emerges as a reward for patience. Discipline also creates trust not only from others but within oneself. When you consistently follow through on what you said you would do, you build self-reliance. You no longer depend on external circumstances to dictate your productivity. This internal stability saves enormous mental energy, allowing for quicker decision-making and fewer distractions. Trust in one's own process reduces hesitation, which is one of the greatest enemies of efficiency. Every time you hesitate, you lose momentum. Every time you act decisively through discipline, you gain it back. There is also a moral element to discipline. It demonstrates respect for time, effort, and opportunity. People who are disciplined treat their commitments seriously not because they are rigid, but because they value growth. They understand that excellence cannot coexist with inconsistency. A disciplined professional meets deadlines not out of fear of punishment, but out of respect for the craft. This sense of responsibility creates reliability, and reliability is the most efficient system of all. When everyone does what they say they will, collaboration becomes smoother and communication more direct. Discipline further enhances adaptability. While it may seem paradoxical, disciplined people are often the most flexible. Because their foundations are strong, they can adjust strategies without losing balance. Efficiency is not rigidity, it is responsiveness within structure. A disciplined musician can improvise better because they have mastered scales. A disciplined student can think creatively because they have internalized fundamentals. Structure provides stability, and stability enables agility. The more disciplined the process, the more efficient the adaptation. From a psychological standpoint, discipline reduces decision fatigue. Every day, we make hundreds of small choices that drain willpower. Discipline automates many of these choices. By establishing routines, individuals free cognitive capacity for deeper, more meaningful work. Instead of wondering when or how to start, they simply begin. Over time, this automation of behavior increases productivity without increasing effort. Efficiency, then, becomes a byproduct of design, a system engineered through repetition and intention. Discipline also builds endurance. Efficiency is not just about speed but sustainability. Anyone can work fast for a day. Only the disciplined can maintain performance for years. They pace themselves, knowing when to push and when to rest. Their systems include recovery because they understand that discipline is not punishment, it is optimization. They see work as a marathon, not a sprint, and their steady rhythm keeps them ahead of those who rely solely on bursts of enthusiasm. Discipline transforms chaos into order. Life will always bring uncertainty, distraction, and pressure. But discipline provides an anchor, a predictable rhythm that allows progress even in unpredictable environments. It is a personal infrastructure for success. When others are derailed by change, the disciplined remains centered, continuing to move forward step by step. That is real efficiency, not the absence of obstacles, but the ability to progress despite them. In every field, education, art, leadership, or innovation, the principle remains constant. Discipline creates efficiency because it aligns effort with purpose, time with focus, and action with consistency. What seems slow at first becomes unstoppable later. The shortcut, as always, is in the work done faithfully, daily, and with disciplined intent. Failure is one of the most misunderstood concepts in the pursuit of success. Society often treats it as a signal to stop, a mark of inadequacy, or a reason for shame, yet in truth, failure is the most efficient form of feedback life can offer. It strips away illusion, exposing what works and what doesn't. Every setback carries within it precise information data that no theory, lecture, or instruction manual could ever provide. Those who learn to study failure rather than avoid it transform their mistakes into mentors. In this way, failure becomes not an obstacle to progress, but a vital component of mastery. When individuals engage deeply in their work, they inevitably encounter resistance. Systems break, ideas fall short, and outcomes disappoint. In those moments, it is tempting to interpret failure as personal, but failure is not a reflection of identity, it is a reflection of the process. It tells you that something in your method, timing, or execution requires refinement. The most successful people are not those who avoid errors, but those who respond to them intelligently. They observe, adjust, and try again with better insight. The repetition of this cycle attempt, fail, learn, adapt forms the foundation of all innovation. Failure trains perception. It sharpens awareness and strengthens analytical thinking. Each time an experiment fails, the mind learns to distinguish between what is essential and what is irrelevant. This process builds discernment. Over time, the individual becomes more skilled at recognizing patterns, predicting challenges, and preventing similar mistakes. Ironically, people who experience more small failures early on tend to perform better later because they accumulate a richer database of lessons. Their efficiency increases not by luck but by exposure. They know what doesn't work, and that knowledge is a powerful shortcut to discovering what does. Failure also develops emotional intelligence. Facing disappointment demands humility, patience, and resilience. It forces the ego to step aside and invites curiosity to take over. When someone asks, "What can I learn from this?" instead of "Why did this happen to me?" they shift from a victim mindset to a growth mindset. This mental shift is the defining difference between stagnation and evolution. Emotional maturity allows individuals to handle criticism constructively, seek feedback openly, and remain composed under pressure. These traits make learning faster and more sustainable, turning emotional control into a form of efficiency. In education and skill development, failure plays a critical pedagogical role. A student who never makes mistakes is a student who never stretches beyond comfort. Learning happens when understanding meets confusion. A failed attempt signals the boundary between what one knows and what one must still master. Educators who create environments where failure is safe accelerate learning dramatically. In such environments, errors become experiments rather than judgments, and curiosity replaces fear. The brain itself learns more effectively this way. Neuroscientific research shows that neural connections strengthen most when errors are recognized and corrected immediately. Thus, failure is not a detour from learning, it is learning in action. Failure also promotes innovation by encouraging experimentation. Progress rarely arises from doing the same thing repeatedly. It comes from trying something new and uncertain. Innovation thrives on trial and error. Every major scientific discovery, technological breakthrough, or artistic revolution emerged from a series of failed attempts. The light bulb, the airplane, the vaccine all began as failures. But to the persistent mind, failure was never final. It was simply data guiding the next iteration. This experimental mindset turns failure into fuel for creativity, and creativity into efficiency. Culturally, failure is stigmatized. Many people are conditioned to equate error with weakness. As a result, they play safe, repeat old patterns, and avoid risks that could lead to genuine growth. The cost of this avoidance is invisibly high. It breeds mediocrity and limits potential. To reverse this, organizations and individuals must reframe failure as feedback. When people are encouraged to analyze rather than conceal their mistakes, learning becomes continuous. Teams that debrief failures honestly improve faster than those that only celebrate success. Efficiency in such environments arises from collective learning. One person's mistake becomes everyone's improvement. Failure also cultivates adaptability. When something doesn't go as planned, it forces flexibility. People must rethink strategies, reassess goals, and approach problems from new angles. This adaptability strengthens problem-solving skills, allowing quicker recovery in future challenges. Those who are comfortable failing are more agile because they expect change and are prepared to adjust. They do not waste energy resisting what has already occurred. Instead, they channel energy into what can be done next. This capacity to pivot quickly without emotional paralysis is one of the clearest indicators of real-world efficiency. Failure builds character. It strips away pretense and reveals commitment. When progress slows and recognition disappears, what remains is authenticity, the pure desire to grow. Perseverance forged through failure is stronger than any external motivation. Each recovery from a setback deepens self-trust. Individuals begin to realize that their worth is not tied to outcomes but to effort. This awareness creates freedom, the freedom to take bolder risks, to think independently, and to keep improving without fear. In this way, failure produces not only skill but wisdom. Failure also connects people. Shared struggle fosters empathy and understanding. Leaders who have failed lead differently with compassion rather than control. They understand the difficulty of growth and create environments where others feel safe to try, err, and improve. This kind of leadership multiplies efficiency across teams, as members spend less time hiding mistakes and more time solving problems collaboratively. Failure humanizes achievement, reminding everyone that success is not the absence of error, but the persistence through it. Ultimately, failure serves as an accelerated teacher. It condenses learning into concentrated experiences that reveal truths no success could show. While success can confirm, only failure can clarify. Each failed attempt polishes judgment, strengthens resilience, and improves strategy. When embraced with curiosity and discipline, failure becomes a silent mentor, one that teaches faster, deeper, and more effectively than comfort ever could. The individual who listens to failure learns to move not just forward, but forward with understanding, and that is the most efficient progress of all. Legacy is often mistaken for fame, recognition, or the accumulation of visible achievements. Yet true legacy is not measured by what one gains, but by what one builds, the impact that continues to shape others long after the work is done. The essence of legacy lies in effort, the sustained, deliberate, and purposeful work that leaves behind structures, lessons, and inspiration for those who follow. The quality of effort, not the speed of results, determines how enduring a contribution becomes. When individuals pour dedication, integrity, and depth into their work, they create outcomes that transcend time. Effort is the invisible architecture of legacy. Every enduring monument, discovery, or idea was once an unseen struggle. The artist who refines a single brushstroke for days, the scientist who repeats an experiment 1,000 times, or the mentor who invests years in shaping another person's growth, all of them are building something far greater than the sum of their tasks. The energy they give accumulates, layer by layer, forming a foundation that others can stand upon. True legacy is not a moment of triumph, but a lifetime of persistence. The reason effort endures while shortcuts fade is that effort develops substance. Shortcuts may deliver results, but they rarely develop depth. Work that is rushed often lacks the refinement that comes from iteration, reflection, and discipline. In contrast, sustained effort integrates understanding into every layer of creation. Each repetition polishes the product and strengthens the person producing it. This is why great legacies in science, art, education, or leadership bear the marks of meticulous craftsmanship. They are built slowly, intentionally, and with care. Effort also transmits values. When someone works with patience, honesty, and consistency, these qualities embed themselves into their work and become part of what they pass on. A student taught by a dedicated teacher learns not just content but character. A community built by compassionate leaders inherits not just systems but spirit. The effort invested in doing something well communicates a standard of excellence that silently educates future generations. This transmission of values is how effort turns into influence and influence into legacy. There is also a moral strength in effort-driven legacy. It represents integrity, the choice to give your best even when no one is watching. People often chase visibility, but visibility fades. Authenticity remains. The work done quietly, away from recognition, often shapes the world most profoundly. The seeds planted in solitude grow into forests of impact. A mentor's quiet encouragement, a researcher's tireless study, or a parent's daily sacrifices, these unseen efforts ripple outward, affecting lives that the originator may never meet. Legacy, therefore, is not a reward but a consequence of devotion. Effort connects generations through continuity. What one person begins, another can build upon. The progress of humanity is a chain of effort, each link forged by someone who refused to stop at convenience. When a writer's words inspire a thinker, when an inventor's design inspires another innovation, the legacy multiplies. This continuity only exists because the initial work was done with depth and care. Superficial effort cannot sustain continuity, it collapses when tested. But genuine, thoughtful effort becomes a bridge between past and future, allowing progress to flow without interruption. Effort also cultivates credibility. People trust those who have demonstrated commitment over time. In a world where promises are easily made, consistency becomes rare and therefore valuable. When individuals show up day after day, improving their craft and honoring their word, they build reputations that outlast temporary recognition. This credibility becomes part of their legacy, a silent endorsement that continues to inspire confidence even after they are gone. Legacy, then, is not only what one leaves behind, but also the trust their work continues to generate. The process of sustained effort also refines wisdom. Each hour of focused work teaches something new about patience, limitations, strategy, and endurance. This accumulated wisdom becomes part of the legacy as well. It is what makes the contributions of seasoned professionals so powerful, not just what they know, but what they have lived through. When they share their experience, they are not transferring information. They are transferring insight forged through effort. Those who receive it inherit more than knowledge, they inherit perspective. Effort-based legacy also redefines success. In a culture obsessed with instant results, it reminds us that success measured only by speed or numbers is fragile. The impact of sustained effort grows in silence before it is seen. The teacher may never witness the full effect of their lessons. The artist may not live to see their influence, but the work carries forward nonetheless. This delayed impact is the truest form of success, one that matures long after the original effort has ended. There is a deep psychological satisfaction in building something that lasts. Effort gives meaning to time because it turns fleeting moments into lasting contributions. When individuals commit fully to their craft, they align their energy with something larger than themselves. This alignment produces a sense of fulfillment that shortcuts cannot offer. A person who invests effort into their purpose experiences not just achievement, but belonging, a connection to the larger human story of creation and progress. In every domain, effort transforms temporary actions into permanent imprints. The scientist's formula becomes a stepping stone for new theories. The musician's composition becomes the foundation for future art. The entrepreneur's integrity sets the tone for future enterprises. Each act of honest work becomes a thread in the vast fabric of collective advancement. The beauty of this principle is that it democratizes legacy. Anyone, regardless of position or power, can contribute. What defines the magnitude of one's legacy is not status, but the sincerity of their effort. Ultimately, legacy built on effort is self-sustaining. It does not require constant validation because its value is embedded in the work itself. Even as trends shift and attention fades, the impact remains, quietly influencing others to pursue excellence with patience and purpose. The pattern repeats. One generation's discipline inspires the next to continue the work, and through that chain of sustained effort, progress endures. Effort, therefore, is not just the path to legacy, it is the legacy.